Recording. Okay. All right. So, hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a decent afternoon. You managed to get some lunch. We ended a little bit early just now, and I think your brains are probably mildly fried from all the React Native we've been throwing at you. The good news is this is probably as tough as it gets, and the videos will be available for watching at some point later when I manage to upload them. Okay, sorry, I'm also trying to rush work in between all these things. A lot of things going on. Very tired. Okay, I will every now and then complain during this session about the fact that I am very sleepy because I made the I had the foolish idea of staying up to watch Apple unveil their, ski goggles things. Okay, fairly interesting, I guess, but who knows, man? Right? It's expensive as hell. All right, so let's get started. Okay. Quick note. As always, yeah, please take note of all this stuff. I think I mentioned everything in the morning. I will not go through every single thing all over again. The idea here is all this is recorded. We'll put it online. These are public YouTube videos. So, I mean, technically, you can send them out to your teammates and they can watch it. Okay, so the YouTube videos are available over here. You just need to, these two are currently already redirect to the YouTube links. These two will do so afterwards as well. Okay, let me talk a little bit about what we're doing tomorrow in case any of you are interested in dropping by. Okay, so tomorrow morning, we're going to talk about prototyping. Okay, which is completely non-technical, which is going to be a nice break from all the coding and stuff that I've been throwing at your faces all these last 2 days. Okay, but I think this one is really important. Okay, because as much as a hackathon is about showing your technical prowess, showing your ability to do certain things, one of the key things that you need to do is to get your idea across well. Okay, and you need to have a good idea to begin with. All right, so there's a lot to that process. I cannot claim to be an expert on this. I am not an expert inventor by any means, okay? But we have some guides and some processes that you can consider following, which might help you if you are so inclined. Okay, so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. I will bring you through a little workbook, right? And my hope for you is that you follow this workbook or whatever other processes you have in terms of brainstorming and just trying things out. And once you have a good idea, right, then you need to demonstrate it. Okay. And when you have a good idea, it doesn't mean that you just go ahead and write it down, ask ChatGPT to describe it for you, right? You need to prototype it, right? You need to show something to the user. Okay. So doesn't mean that you need to build an entire React Native app. Okay. It might be something that you can just prototype using some kind of prototyping tool. If you have this amazing technology called pen and paper, you could literally just draw it out. Okay, sure, that is one step. All right. What we will go through tomorrow is we'll use Figma. So those of you who have experience with it, you might not learn anything new. You might learn something new. It's up to you. Okay. We found that quite a few teams do pretty well with Figma. And if you get your UI right, if you do a good job with your UI in the qualifier stage, you can actually end up using some of those assets and stuff in your actual app. Okay, so I think it's worth investing the time in it. And at the end of the day, even if you don't qualify, at least you spend some time trying something new. Put it up on your resume, right? Make sure that some people out there can see the work that you've done. Okay, so that's the morning. Afternoon is a bit more iffy, but it's back to coding. Excuse me. All right, it's back to coding, but the aim for the afternoon is to work with APIs, right? So I have a simple little API for you to work with, and that's back to React Native, right? Just to be clear, tomorrow there is more React Native since that's the platform we've been using. Okay, tomorrow afternoon we will be working with a simple API first, right? And then I'm hoping I have some new material that we don't have slides for, okay? So I'm hoping to try some of that out with all of you, okay? One of them could be a fun little ChatGPT app, for example, all right? So that's the ChatGPT API is not difficult to use. So I think that might be something that could be fun to try, particularly for a hackathon. Okay, so it's good to know what your APIs are capable of. Okay, there's also some nice backend tools you can use. The slides are on Firebase. However, the credits that if you make it to the finals, right? Once again, the finals are, where are my finals? The finals are running from the 16th to the 21st, or rather the 22nd. Okay, if you make it to the finals, you will get some credits, cloud credits. DSTA has decided to give cloud credits for AWS, all right? Possibly because, I guess that's the one that many people might find use for, okay? AWS has a whole variety of stuff you can use it for. I will try and point you to certain things, but this, of course, is only relevant to you when you reach the finals, all right? AWS in particular has a framework for mobile app development called Amplify, right? Amplify Studio. And I think we can try that out. Right? I can try that out together. My slides are once again for Google Firebase. You can also use Firebase if you're comfortable. The free tier is pretty good, right? It's good enough for most of what you need for a hackathon. Okay, so that's, yeah, if you're not sure about APIs, if you're new to all that, drop by, hear us out. We'll tell you, a bit more when we might think you might need it, right? Sometimes you don't, right? Sometimes you can just, like fix things and you can get by. That's okay too. All right, so that's the upcoming plan for the next 2 days. All right. For now, though, let's head back to React Native, right? So once again, I don't know if anyone here is new. Your names all look fairly familiar at this point. Welcome back. If you're new here, if it's the first time you're joining us, essentially, I need your help to head over to the Discord. And if you have any questions, please post over there, right? I will be posting my materials as we go along there as well. If you scroll up a little bit, you will see this link to workshop materials. That's the one you can click on. And that will bring up this website, which contains the materials. It's on my other screen, so I will pop it over here. Okay, so we have done this so far. Okay, and in theory, you can just follow along and like try all the other things on your own. Okay, if you have any questions, you can let us know in the Discord. But we'll try and answer your questions as best we can. But I guess one of the things is we'll try and prioritize the questions that are most relevant to the hackathon, right? So we're just kind of like coming here to learn something. Sure, we'll try and help you. But when the actual thing starts, right, we do want to prioritize the people who are asking questions about the hackathon itself. Okay. All right. So where did we stop just now? We stopped at code EXP 4 database-driven app. Okay, so far the apps that we've built have been like toy apps lah, right? They don't store any data. Okay, they don't actually save anything, and if you quit the app, they will just restart. Okay, so if I go over here, right, this is not particularly like industrial app by any chance. Okay, and what if people really like this combination of colors? How do you save it? You can't. Okay, because once you quit this app, once you quit this app, you kill it off. Okay, you restart it, it will probably be gone. Okay, actually, yeah, I think it's probably gone. Okay, I just realized I restarted Expo rather than the actual app. But yeah, Expo will load the app again from the server. Let's just tap on this, and it should bring back nothing at all. Okay, so that's not great, right? So what this means is that your app does not have persistence. Okay, this doesn't mean that your app, is not very hardworking or things like that. It just means that all the stuff is currently stored in memory, right? Kind of like, well, RAM. You would think about it as RAM. Okay, so you all know about RAM. You know your computers have a certain amount of RAM. That's the fast memory, right? That's where you can write and read data very quickly. But there's also long-term memory, which are your SSDs as well as your hard disks and stuff like that. Okay, so when you quit something, right, the entire program is removed from memory, and so is all its data unless it saves it to long-term memory. Okay, and when it saves to long-term memory, not only does it have to save into the right place, it has to know where to find it later on, and then after that, it has to somehow get back the data when it starts up again. Okay, so there's a lot going on when you talk about persistence, right? The good news is that there's two pieces of good news, right? One is that it's not the toughest thing in the world to implement. All right, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. You might need to know some databases, right? The way that we're teaching you, there might be easier methods out there. Okay, the second piece of good news is that I'm not convinced you need it for the hackathon. Okay, I'm not super convinced that you actually need to know persistence for the hackathon, because what are you going to do? You're not going to give your demo app back to the judge like in 3 days time and then for them to reopen and see whether their data is still there. Okay, your job is to just make a 2 to 3 minute presentation, right, at the end of the day. Okay, so you don't actually need to worry too much about some of these details, but I think it might still be educational for you. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get going with databases. All right, so this next section involves databases. So some of you might come in here without the experience to work with databases. Okay, so there are people out there who study databases for a living. Okay, so my university advisor back in the day, database prof, right? So I think she's like a CS chair now or something. But anyway, she was a database prof. She really like the databases and more databases. There's a whole science to it. Okay, but for most of us, databases are just places where you put data, right? Then you retrieve data. Okay, an Excel file is kind of like a very primitive database. All right, so what if you're really interested in in all this, there's a lot of these little tutorials you can go through. These are all available in the slides. Okay, all right, so essentially, right, when you deal with a database app, you're doing 4 things: create, read, update, and destroy. Okay, so we call these things CRUD apps. Okay, and a lot of apps out there are CRUD apps. They just deal with data that you create, read, update, and destroy. So think of it as, let's say your messages app. Your messages app, okay, you create messages, you write to someone, you read messages, they come in, and then you read them, okay? You update messages, okay, maybe you don't really update messages, but yeah, sometimes you do, right? Nowadays, you can undo send on iOS, and Android has its own set of features as well. You can delete messages, right? So WhatsApp allows you to delete messages for everyone, okay? So extending that, right? A lot of things are CRUD apps. Social media apps are CRUD apps, right? Your, let's say, Instagram or TikTok. You create stuff, right? Maybe some of us don't create stuff on social media, sure. You read stuff from other people, for sure. Okay. Sometimes you can update it, like let's say your Instagram post, you can actually go and change the title or whatever. You can delete posts, right? When you are finally too embarrassed to leave that photo of yourself up from 15 years ago. All right. So that's a CRUD app. Your social media apps, all CRUD apps. Okay. Carousel is a CRUD app. Carousel is one of those things where you create a listing, you put up a listing, you you look through people's listings, and then you bargain with them, and then they say, can you go, and then you complain, and then everyone's unhappy. Good times for everyone. Okay. So that's the CRUD app, right? So these things, okay, happen throughout your mobile life. Okay, there's 2 types that we've broken them down into. One is a relational database, and one is a document-based database. Right, one is called SQL. It's called structured query language. Okay, very structured. It's like, here's a list of people, here's a list of books, here's a list of comments and stuff like that, and they all interconnect. Very cool. Okay, document-based is a bit more like your filing system in primary school. Okay, you just dump all your stuff inside a file, right? And then you kind of like look through the file later on. Okay, so different subject files have different amounts of data, and that they might have a different contents entirely, different structures. Okay, but that's okay. It's not like super structured. Okay, MySQL is one of the most common ones. Okay, if you've done web development, you might have seen it, right? It's the language used in MySQL, right? We're using SQLite inside here. Okay, and SQLite is kind of like a dialect of SQL. Okay, there are minor syntax changes, but the idea is the same. Okay, so there's all these different database terms and stuff like that. I'm not going to teach you about databases lah, all right? But if you're interested, you can read through all these. Okay, so SQLite is essentially a relational database. Okay, that means SQL based, and it saves the stuff in a file. Okay, whereas something like MySQL, you need to run an entire server, and it stores stuff, optimizes stuff behind the scenes for you. Okay, so we are going to do something with this, all right? And we're going to try and implement a bit of a to-do list app. Okay, and you know what? I'm not super worried about actually implementing the SQLite part. I just kind of want you to see the CRUD aspect of it. Okay, so first things first, before that, I want to show you this thing, right? At the export documentation, there is an example to-do list app. So what are we making out? Okay, let's go take a look at this. And this will let me also demonstrate one thing, which is to load up other people's GitHub projects. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, right? It's github.com/expo/example/tree/master/ with SQLite. Okay, so this thing down here, all right, is a SQLite example from Expo. Okay, so let's see how we load someone else's project. So I'm going to go to these 3 dots. right, I'm going to not delete directory, sorry. You can't actually do that. Okay, don't worry, you can't other people can't delete your stuff. Okay. Let me see if I can actually just download this particular folder, because this actually is a examples repository, right? By Expo. Okay, but it's a lot of stuff, right? Let me see if I can just download this entire folder over here. No good if I don't see a download button. Okay, so I might need to download the entire thing, right? If anyone knows how to do this, please let me know, right? You all have been fantastic about answering my questions when I've been, messing up and just being generally very confused. Okay, I'm a generally very confused person. Okay, but yeah, if anyone knows how to download a certain part of this, that'll be great. If not, never mind. I will just go and download the entire database, right? So I'm just going to click on this. Okay, there's a few ways to clone someone's Git repository. Okay, assuming you have it set up on your command line, you can just go to this and local and clone, right? Click on this. Okay, then you can just go to your terminal. I use iTerm, right? And I'm going to open up a new one, and I'm going to git clone and paste in the URL. Okay, so what that does is it will grab the entire thing from online, right? It looks not super gigantic. It is not small though, right? And there we go. Okay, so I can go into examples folder, right? And there's all these different things. And I wanted the one that said with what? With SQLite. Okay, so this thing over here is our entire Expo app. Right, that's all there is to it. Okay, so I'm going to open this up inside Visual Studio Code, and but before that, I need to run npm install. Okay, so this thing doesn't have the node modules folder, right? When you download someone else's project, they didn't upload the 200 over megabytes of node modules that come by default with your thing. Okay, so I'm going to npm install this, right? So that it will actually get everything set up, right? Including whatever SQLite libraries and plugins that will enable us to work with it. Okay, you've seen npm install used with npm install followed by React Native, React Navigation or whatever, right? Now npm install just means, hey, go to this package.json and install everything, right? Go, right? Install everything inside there. Okay, so that's what it's doing right now. It's downloading a whole bunch of stuff. Later, just out of morbid curiosity, I'm going to check how much space this takes up. Okay. There we go. Okay, once again, please ignore these vulnerabilities. Okay, it makes when we teach like adult learners, they're very panicky when it comes to this. Vulnerabilities. All right, I'm gonna get hacked. Okay, don't worry. Right, so I mean, don't worry, it's fine. Okay, so if I do this, yep, 270 megabytes. Awesome. Okay, so now I can actually do npm run iOS. Okay, so what that does is it will it's already running my colors app. Let me quit my colors app. Okay, no. Right, so I'm just going to run this again. Okay, it's asking me. Oh, okay, hang on. It says that some dependencies are incompatible. Your project may not work correctly. So you might run into these issues. Okay, maybe not so much that you run into these issues among yourselves, because in the hackathon, you are hopefully all working on the same version, right? Make sure you all install the same node version, and then all of you make sure you update when you do npx create expo app, you should be using the same version. Okay, but here is like, hey, they're using React Native 0.71.3 and expected version is 0.71.8. Okay, or the other way around. Okay, yeah, mine is at 0.71.3, but theirs is at 0.71.8, which is fine. This is a minor version number. I think it should be fine. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's refresh this, Command D, and reload. Right, so if you have a device, you can just shake it rather than pressing Command D. And what that does is it is going to help me load my page. Where's my page? There it is. Okay, so here's an SQL example. It says, what do you want to do? Right, I'm going to come up with a quiz, right? Then I'll just press enter, and there you go. Right, here's something else, right? Then maybe what else do I want to do? I want to take a nap after staying up late. Press enter, right? There you go, right? So this is a nice little to-do list, right? And it's stored inside SQLite. Okay, so check if this data persists. Okay, so I'm going to try checking if it persists, right? I'm just actually going to quit the app. right? And swipe it off screen. Those of you who use iOS, you know what I'm doing, right? I'm just killing the app and reloading it from memory. Okay, and let's see whether it actually persists because it's kind of like within an Expo app. I'm not 100% sure that that will work, but let's just try. Okay, so tap on this with SQLite. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so it actually worked, unlike my Colors app just now. My Colors app, I quit it and it was gone. Bye-bye. Now it's still around. Okay, pretty cool. Let's go take a look at the code. Right, so over here, I'm going to go to File, Open or Open Folder, doesn't matter. Go up to Developer folder, and under Examples, I want to go to with SQLite. Okay, press Open. All right, so this is their files, right? It's called app.js. Pretty much remember, like when I checked through the file, I used ls to check through the files, so just app.js and package.json and a few other files. Okay, now it's got a whole ton of node modules as expected, and it's got some Expo stuff, right, just to get things set up. Okay, so let's take a look, right? So there's some stuff here that should be kind of familiar to you. Imports useState and useEffect, great. Imports a bunch of views from React Native, including some you haven't seen before, like platform and text input, okay? It imports some constants, and it imports SQLite, right? That's the key one, okay? So here's something interesting. It says, hey, function open database, all right? If platform.os equals to web, right, then it will do something slightly different. Okay, that's because when you want to store things on the web using SQLite, it must do something slightly different. Okay, so that's how you target different platforms in your app. I'm not 100% sure this will be relevant to you and in your hackathon because you probably don't need to demo on both Android and iOS and web and anything else for that matter. Okay, just choose one and be done with it. Okay, so if platform equals to web, then you do this stuff. Okay, return transaction, return execute SQL, blah, 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 bunch of like empty functions, strange. Okay, and it says const db equals to SQLite.open database db.db, right? So that is the database that it's saving. The file name is data.db and the password and the extension is db as well. All right, so that's open database. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, what it does is the moment it loads up, it opens the database one time. Okay, and it's going to use that throughout the entire app. Okay, so over here, there's a function called items, right? This is I think this is the list over here, right? And it's got a bunch of items and comma set items goes to use state now. Now, here's where I'll explain this in a bit, right? This is use effect, right? I'll talk about this in a bit, okay? And this one, by the way, you can mark it as done. So you mark it as done, it will go down here. Okay, so if items is null or length equals null, return a view where you have a items.map. Okay, so each of these items is mapped and it receives the three things: ID, done, value. These are all kind of destructured. Okay, the key is ID, right? And on press is this, and style is this. Notice they didn't bother using a flat list. Okay, they just like items.map. That means give me a bunch of touchable opacities. No need to put them into a flat list. Okay, which works fine when it's a small number of items. Okay, right? How many to-dos could you possibly have, right? All right, so yeah, this means that you don't technically need to use a flat list as well as render item and stuff like that, but you still do need the key. You still do need a key for every single item inside. Okay, so on press is interesting. You see, on press equals to a function which runs on press item and on press item ID, right? Which means that only if this is true, then the second one will run. Okay, it's a Boolean algebra. Okay, if this is false, then the second thing won't run. Okay, so it's just to check, right? If this is also true, then we run it. Okay, all right, then the style is as follows, and this is the text style, right? If it's done, it's white. If it's not done, it's black. Okay, all right, so let's scroll down, and this is the overall app. Overall app also has a use effect, which I'll talk about in a bit. Okay, and down here, this is the add function, right, which contains some DB transactions, which I will not read through just yet. Okay, there's a lot going on inside here, right? But if I scroll down a little bit more, right, you will see that there's a view container, right? It's got a text style. This is something to check whether it's web related. And notice this, look clear. This is a ternary operator that returns different things based on what platform is on. Okay, so if it's on the web, it'll say Expo SQLite is not supported on the web. Too bad. Okay, so otherwise you get this funny little emoji-like thing, okay, which is essentially saying this is the true view. This is the view that's returned if this is true. But down here is the view that's returned, and if it's false arg, my scroll bar is terrible. Okay, anyway. All right, so where is it? Where is it? Okay, it's here. Okay, so this thing is a fragment. It just contains everything inside. It contains more than one thing inside. So there's a view over here, right? That so text input. Okay, a text input is essentially a way for users to type stuff in. What's interesting about text input is that it has to be tied to a state variable. Okay, a text input has to be tied to a state variable, because if you don't tie it to a state variable, then essentially there's no way to update the screen. Okay, remember, your screen can only be updated by state variables. So every time you type something in, you're updating a state variable. When you delete something, the state variable updates itself. Okay, so essentially it has this thing called value equals to text. It's tied to a text, and then on change text, it will keep updating itself. Okay, it's quite interesting. Okay, finally, it's the scroll view with all the items, right? It's scroll view with all the items, and it displays all of them. Okay, now let's go review the database stuff, right? So by the way, sorry, it's the scroll view with the not done items followed by the done items. Okay, and down here there's a bunch of other stuff, okay, which I won't go through. Let's go back to the use effect. Okay, so for this, right, what's going on? Remember use effect, right? Use effect is something that runs under a few situations, right? If you have an empty square bracket over here, it will run the first time that this component is mounted. Okay, that this component is created, right? It will run. Okay, so this means that the first time this items, it refers to this entire chunk of either done or undone items. Okay, it will run this thing. What does it do? It goes to your database and it does some database transactions. Okay, it says, hey, select all the items where done equals to, okay, 1 or 0. Okay, so that's the idea, right? So if it's the top, if it's this bunch, it will be 0. So where done equals to 0 means that undone items, okay? And then there's a bunch of stuff over here which says, okay, what do you do when you receive these items? Well, let's set your items to the array that you get back. Okay, then there's this whole mishmash of bracket soup over here, right? Which is very, very upsetting to see sometimes. Okay, but this just means that, hey, the first time you show up, please run this database transaction and update my items from it. Okay, that's what happens. Down here, this is another use effect. This use effect will essentially load when the app shows up. Okay, when the app shows up, and you'll say, hey, run this SQL. So this SQL is kind of like a programming language, right? There's a definite syntax to it. It says create table if not exist items, and these are the different fields that goes into the items. Okay, it's a little bit complex. It's a little bit complex, but don't worry, I don't expect you to know the SQL, if you haven't done before. All right, let's scroll down some more. When you add an item, okay, you must also add it to the database. Okay, so you're saying, okay, when you add an item, I want you to insert into these items, okay, this thing. And after that, please update the rows after that. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on inside here just to get this thing to send to the database. If this really matters to you, all right, you might consider doing Firebase, okay, which is an online database, which is a lot easier to use actually, right? You just kind of link it up and you just give you data, right? I receive data. Okay, so for now, right, this is just treat this for educational purposes. This is how you use your SQLite. Okay, I'm not going to implement this, right? I'm not going to implement this. Trying to implement this and to explain everything is going to hurt you and hurt me, and you will all be very sad by the end of the day, right? When we shouldn't be very sad. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the slides real quick, right? If you do want to implement everything, then by all means, it's all the way down here. Right, all the way down here, task number 10. Okay, but don't worry, I'm just going to go through some of the stuff where we create the stuff, the things that we've done. Okay, so there's all this stuff available, right? Parameter destructuring, use state, use effect, ternary, map, key, props, arrow functions. Okay, and one of the things is, where is the database? Let me show you where the database is. Let me see if I can run this video. I think it should be able to run. Excuse me. Okay, let me see if I can run this video over here. Okay, it's recorded a few years ago, but I think it should still work. Okay, so what happens is that when you need to install this thing called Expo file system. okay, is something that will expose the file system, haha, expose the file system, okay? And once you have that, what you can do is you can actually go ahead and import it. Okay, so let me just show this real quick. All right, so what this lets you do is you can console.log where the stuff is on your local file system, right? So let me just over here, we just change it over to a string, and then we say, okay, let's our file system is here, right? File system.document directory. Okay, because right now it stores it in your simulator, somewhere in your simulator, but we have no idea where. Okay, it's very hard to find. So I'm going to npm start, export start, right? Again, this is different from before. Now you do start, okay? And let's go over to this thing over here, and we're going to run it in our simulator, right? So there we go, okay? So we have a profit, eat fish, walk the dog, and dsfsfsfs. Okay, so that's great. We mark some things as done. We do some stuff. We muck around with it. Okay. And what we want to do now is we want to go and find the file system. Okay. So you can see over here, it's opening it right again. And it's reloading, it's building the JavaScript bundle. And there you go. It found the file system for me. This is on the Mac. Okay. So it gives me a file, the directory. Okay. Then from here, what I can do is I can actually open it up on my macOS Finder, which used to look like this. I paste it inside here, I go here, and you can see, there you go, db.db, right? And I open it using this SQLite DB browser. So you can see over here, right? It's got this thing over here. Let me pause the video here. This is the database that we are concerned with, right? It's got ID 1, 4, and 5. It's got done 1, 0, and 1, and value eat fish, profit, and DSFSFSFS. Okay, so that's how you get this. Ayo, what am I doing? Why am I dragging that stupid thing around? Okay, but anyway, that's how you get to your file system if you are so inclined, right? That's actually quite useful because let's say you have some sample data, you want to copy it. Let's say if you really implemented your full persistence, right? There's an advantage because let's say, your laptop is not so great for demo. You want to move to someone else's laptop or someone else's device. You can actually go grab the SQLite file and place it in the right place. Okay, so you have all the sample data all prepared in your SQLite file. You can even edit it using one of these SQLite editors. Okay, but a bit of edge case, not everyone will need to do that. Okay, so let's go do this, right? Let's go do this, right? So I'm going to get you through a simple CRUD app, right? Maybe we won't touch the SQL part, but I think it's useful for you to see a CRUD app in action. Okay, questions so far? I talked for very long. Let me drink some water first, okay? You're hang in. Okay. Very tiring. Let's go. So once again, instructions are wrong, right? So this is I'm gonna just need to update this at some point. Let me see if I can press update and see whether it works. Does it work? Oh, hey, kind of. No, it does not work. Okay, never mind. So it's okay. Let's do these, right? So I'm going to start a brand new project. I think you've seen me do this a few times by now, but I think there's some value in kind of seeing me do this over and over again. Okay, so again, npx create expo app. This is notes app. I forgot whether this is a notes app or a to-do app. Okay, I'm sorry. I might have messed things up. But it's going to do that. And while I do that, I am going to go to GitHub and create a new project. Right. So plus new repository. So EXP23 notes app. Okay, so a demo for okay, so press create repository, and by the time I'm done, hopefully I can go back and just push the repository over. Hey, that did not work. Okay, so let's wait for this for a moment. All right, let's go see if I can find a demo to show you what it does. Okay, here we go. All right, so you can create something. All right, you have a, and notice the way it pops up is a slightly different thing. It's actually a modal. It pops up from the bottom of the screen, right? Okay, and you can delete stuff, you can create stuff. Okay, this is not quite a to-do list. Okay, this is a bit misleading. It's not a to-do list. It's more like a notes app. All right, I don't know why I said to-do list here and notes here. Okay, you could add a to-do field later on. All right. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, great, we're done. So CD Notes app. Let's paste in the GitHub setup. And I will copy and paste this link for you. Okay, so day 2 p.m. Notes app. All right, hey, there's a question. Let's go check it out. Okay. All right, I think Sean has it handled, so hopefully that's okay. Right, if yeah, I'll take a look at it later. Okay, so all right, so if I refresh this, I think we have our Notes app ready. Okay, our Notes app skeleton. Okay, let's go over here and let's do npm run iOS. Okay, good. So I press I, it will try and load the iOS. And down here, I'm going to reload this and it's going to give me a new thing. And I'm going to switch this over to my Notes app. Okay, great. App.js. Okay, so we've started everything all over again. Okay, so yeah, I think it's just good practice, right? Just at least you have a chance to see all this in action. Okay, there's some stuff that I need to do, which is I do need to install React Navigation, which is down here. Okay, so copy this, go to the terminal, paste it in. And down here, this is no longer expo install, we just use npm install. Okay, it used to be that you could install expo specific versions, right, which was actually quite handy, right? But now a lot of things are already compatible with expo. Okay, so now I've installed all this stuff. That's great. All right, so one. Okay, this one technically you don't need to, right? But no harm. Let me just npm install it. Okay. So this will enable us to use expo for SQLite. Sorry, enable us to use SQLite for expo. Okay. Okay, that's good. All right, so let's now go and see what we are up to next. Okay, so over here. Right, let me go grab this and paste it on my other browser so I have something to refer to. Okay, and this is, I guess, just something to take note of. All the different imports, right? Remember the thing that tripped me up this morning? Okay, when you import, there's many different ways of import. Okay, import React from React means import the main export. This one, import the main export as well as something that's not the main export. Import just the non-main export from a library. This is import the main export from a file. Okay, and this one is import everything from SQLite, right? As SQLite. Okay, it'll be namespaced as everything you start from SQLite dot. Okay, so let's go set up this thing over here, right? I think this is a better looking navigation than we've ever done before. So let's try this out real quick. Okay. So let's close this and let's close this up a little bit. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to make this, I'm going to go set up your import create stack navigator from this. Okay, that's good. And down here, I'm going to need a few things, maybe not. All right, so let's go. All right, so this thing is no longer my main. I'm just going to call this the note screen. Okay, and this is no longer my default, right? But now I do need a default. So I'm going to say, over here, const stack equals to create stack navigator. And down here, I'm going to say export default function app. Okay, return bracket navigation container. Okay, and stack.navigator and stack.screen. Right, stack.screen name equals to notes. Component equals to notes screen. And that's it for now. All right, so once I do that, I have this thing. Oops, once I have these things set up, okay, let's go make it more yellow to make it look more like your iOS Notes app, shall we? Okay, there's a few things you can do for this. One of the things is, first of all, I guess let's make the note screen yellow, sure. So styles.container will become yellow, sure. Background color, yellow is FF0, or you can just type yellow. Ew, that's super yellow, right? So maybe CC0, that's just gross, right? So FF8, okay, slightly better. Okay, so this is how red, how green, and how blue. Okay, now if you want the title to be colorful as well, all right, that's when stuff is a little bit more different. Okay, so over here you can update your stack.screen with more props, and the prop over here is actually called options. Okay, but you know what? Let's just kind of like pretend for a second that we don't know how to do this. All right. Because one of the key skills that I hope you can take away from this is that you can go and look stuff up online yourself and figure things out. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and let's go ask ChatGPT. Okay, so let's try this. Right, so I think it's something that in this day and age, I think we should all make use of the tools that we have. So chat.openai.com. All right, I'm not sure if I'm logged in. Nope, I'm not logged in. Let me just log in real quick. Okay, so give me a second. Let me just log into my ChatGPT account. Okay. I need to unlock my okay, so OpenAI, let's just paste it over here and save, and it's going to ask me for my one-time password, which is great because I have a password manager. Password managers are fairly useful. And there we go. Okay, so sure. All right, let's go do that. Okay, so I have GPT-4, but I won't I won't cheat, I guess. I'll make use of the free one that's available for everyone else. So I'm going to say I have a React navigation app in React Native. I would like to style it so that it has a yellow header. I would like to style a stack view, a stack, so that it has a yellow header with a large title in the middle that is bold. Okay, so let's try. All right, to style the title. Whoa, there we go. Right, so there's a bunch of stuff that it gives us, and I mean, I'm not here to like sell you on ChatGPT or anything, right? I'm sure you've heard plenty about it, all right? But I'm here to tell you that this is a pretty great tool to have under your tool belt. Okay, so once you know a little bit about the technology that you're using, ChatGPT can be very, very effective as an assistant, which is what it was meant to be called, right? As an assistant. Okay, so the key thing though is that if you had just tried to use ChatGPT to create something in React Native like 2 days ago, right, when you had never done any React Native, right, assuming that you never done any React Native, it will be very difficult. You'll be like, what's this? Where do I put it? How do I get started? And things like that. You can ask more questions, right? But hopefully you're at a point where you can look at this and you can kind of recognize which parts of the code you need to use and which parts of the code you don't need to use and they don't make sense for you. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look. So down here it says, okay, you can recognize that you have this create stack navigator. Yeah, that's what we just did. Okay, and it's got stack.navigator, which we have in our code, right? Stack.navigator. Okay, so once you identify that, then you're like, oh, okay, this is just a prop to our stack.navigator, right? And I think it ends over here. So I'm going to copy this and put it inside our stack.navigator. See what happens, lor? Okay, let's save it. Right, there we go. Right, it turned background color yellow. And maybe you don't want this to be so dark, so light yellow. You could have it maybe orangish, like F93 or something like that. Okay, so yeah, okay, that's nice. Okay, and over here, the header title style, you managed to actually give it some different sizes. Maybe you can give it slightly bigger font size. All right, so notes, very big notes. Okay, so not bad, not bad. All right, let's see what else they have for us. Okay, so you can see hopefully that, this is one way to just, to just like supplement your knowledge, lah, right? Because you'll be like, hey, sometimes I really don't know how to do something. You go online, you go to Stack Overflow. Sometimes it just doesn't give you the good answers. You need to plow through people, asking questions, clarifying, and things like that. Sometimes the documentation is not so easy to look up as well. Okay, so that's when things like your generative AI tools can step in a little bit. Okay, so maybe here, tell you what, right? I look at this, I'm like, I want a bit more padding between my title and the bottom of my header bar. So I want to make my header bar taller, and I want to add a bit of a shadow underneath it. Okay, a border underneath it. Okay, so let's try that. Right, so I want to also make the header a bit taller and add a shadow and a border under it. Okay, so just send it off, right? See whether it can help you with that. All right, so here we go. Right, header style. Now it's got a bunch of new stuff. Okay, so previously we had screen options with header style and background color. Now it's got header style with a bunch of other stuff, right? So let's go grab all these, copy, right? Paste it down here. Remember to put commas, right? You paste it in, save it, and okay lah, right? Looks not bad. I can kind of see the border over there. Right, I don't see a shadow, but it didn't quite give me. Oh, that's a shadow for Android devices. Okay, thing, right? That's not what I'm expecting. Okay, maybe the height. Now that you know there's a height object, you can change, right? You can change it. Oh yeah, great. Now it's nice and big. Okay, so I just thought this was a nice thing to be able to demo, right? It's something that everyone now has access to until the government regulates it away or whatever, right? So ChatGPT, not bad, right? If you find that ChatGPT doesn't work well for you because you are working with new APIs, right? There is a AI search engine for developers called Find. I think that's how you pronounce it, Find, right? If you want, you can also ask it, and it will actually go actively look up documentation for you. Okay, so some things move very fast, right? Especially in the world of JavaScript, right? So if you want to try something else, right? This one is not bad. It will try to, there are some sources for you that you can actually research afterwards, right? So as you know, ChatGPT doesn't currently look online, right? It just relies on the corpus of knowledge that it has from September 2021 and before. Okay, but maybe this will work as well. This is not correct. Okay, hang on. So this doesn't seem quite right. Okay, okay, so yeah, it's a different answer, right? It's a different answer. And if anyone wants to take a look at it, I can share the link to it. Okay, it seems fine, right? So header props, custom header. Okay, so that's something new, right? So over here, you define the custom header in a separate file. Okay. And what's interesting is that if your custom header expects any props, you can pass it on using this thing, right? It's actually a spread of all the props that you have. Okay, you will see this in some people's code, and great, right? Good that you can actually take a look at this, right? So now you can have a custom header that you can customize to all you want using a separate style sheet. Okay, not bad. I think that's a nice different approach. Okay, and then they have a different thing for React Navigation v4 and so on. Okay, so it's still generating. I think we'll leave it alone. At this point, I think it's probably good for everyone to take a short break. All right, so let me go push up this thing, right? So git add dot git commit -m style the front page. Thanks, ChatGPT. Git push. Okay, so that's the first version done, right? And what we're going to do is after this, right? If you want a challenge, if you want to have a bit of a challenge, help me add a little icon over here with a little pencil icon. You know those pencil icons. If you use iOS, you have this little pencil icon. You tap on it and you can create a new note, right? Okay, help me see if we can add it there. Okay, so you need to use you do need to use effect, kind of like what we did in the Kueh Lapis app just now. Okay, but for now, I am going to pause and we will resume in about 5 to 10 minutes. Let me just check what the time is right now. Okay. Yeah, let's resume in about no, it's okay, let's resume in about 7 minutes time. Okay. Let me pull this thing back on screen. Oh, all right. What happened to my camera? Hang on. Give me a second. I think my camera just restarted itself. It's a software camera. There we go. All right, we're back. All right. Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Okie dokie. Let's see. Okay, cool. Let's continue. What we're going to do now is we are going to continue doing our Notes app. So Notes app. Okay, Notes app. Okay. So let me head over to our second task. All right. My task for you was to add a little button in the top right-hand corner, right, where you can just console log a message for now, right? But I'm using this custom icon. Let me show it to you in the slides, which is over here. Slides are here. This thing. Okay, so I like to do this thing. Okay, so the way you do that is by using use effects. Okay, so over here, inside the note screen, okay, you need to use effect. And in order to use effect, you need to actually import use effect. So import use effect from React. Okay, so down here, I'm going to say use effect. Okay, use effect, I like to type it like this first. I need to type a blank function. Okay, and that's it, right? So this is just a use effect that does nothing upon every refresh. And now inside here, I've decided, okay, what do I want to do? I want to say navigation. Oh wait, I need to get the navigation prop. So navigation. Okay, so navigation down here, I need to actually say navigation dot set options. Hey, hang on. Did I get this right? Okay, let me go check my other project, right? So no harm in doing so. Let's go pull up my previous project. github.com/yjsoon/colors app. Okay, so you might find yourself referring back to stuff. It's okay. Let me go back to here. And I have navigation dot set options, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yep, that's correct. Okay, I was a little bit uncertain because it wasn't auto-completing, but that's because navigation is a bit hard. It's a bit hard for JavaScript to tell where this is coming from. Okay, so it doesn't actually know how to autocomplete. It doesn't know what the heck navigation is. All right, you can do navigation dot set options, open bracket, open curly brace. Okay, so inside here, we are going to say header right, colon, receives a function, right? And inside this function, I'm going to use a touchable opacity. Okay, so here's one thing. You can actually, if you have I forgot which plugin it is installed, all right? Maybe the Expo plugin, you can actually just tap to insert and it'll import for you. Okay, now the problem is that there's this touchable opacity from React Native gesture handler, which is not the one you want to import. You want to import the one from React Native. Let me show you again. So touchable opacity. Okay, you want the one from React Native. So to press down, then press tab. Okay, then you notice that this thing suddenly got imported. Okay, so touchable opacity on press equals to add note. And down here, I'm just going to have a text that says add first. And I know it's going to give me an error until I create a function called add note. Okay, so just console.log. Hello, I am new note. Okay, so let me save all this. Great. And there's an add button. Tap on it. Okay, and go check our console. Our console is over here. And it says, hello, I am new note. Okay, not bad, not bad. Let's go get our icons, which is at icons.expo.fyi, and I'll look for one with a pencil. Right, so I think, oh, this one, I like this pencil square O. Okay, so I need to copy over this import, put it up here. Okay, and I want to go and grab this and put it down here. Okay, so let's refresh and there we go. Okay, it's a bit too close to the edge. Okay, so how do I fix that? I can just use the style prop. Style prop can have margin right of, let's say, 20. Okay, so now it shifts it to the right, gives a bit of space to the right, maybe 10. Okay lah. All right, so not bad. Right now we have a simple little icon up here that when tapped will actually call a function that we can fill in a moment. Hello, I'm new note. Okay, so this is just as good a time as any to git add dot git commit, git push. Okay. All right, that's great. All right, so for this next part, right, I'm going to, if you're following along with the slides, right, this is the point where I actually import the SQLite database. So I'm just going to do that, right, even though I don't think I will implement the SQLite stuff. Okay, so how to import? You just do this. You use import star as SQLite from expo SQLite. Okay, step one. Next is you create the database. You can call it B. You can call it notes.db to make it a bit more accurate. Okay, doesn't matter, right? The user will not be able to see this. Okay, so what this does is it really just creates it somewhere in your phone's file system, right? And only your app has access to it, right? All these phones are sandboxed. One app cannot affect another app, right? So all these are very heavily protected from one another, right? That's how they were designed by Apple and Google. Okay. All right, so that's great. Let's continue, right? Next, let's go make a flat list of our notes. Okay, let's go make a flat list of our notes. So each notes item will have a title and an ID, and yeah, I think just a title and ID, right? Let's not pretend this is a to-do app. This is a notes app. Okay, so I'm going to create a state variable of these, and I'm going to put them inside here. So to create a state variable, I need useState. Okay, and down here I'm going to do useState. Okay, so I'm going to say const notes set notes equals to useState. Okay, maybe give a sample note, I guess. So the first one I can have title walk the cat ID :0, comma, oops, title feed the banana, comma, ID :1. All right, so pretty nice. Right, now we have this state variable, which we are not using yet. Okay, but what we want to do is, by the way, we can close some of these things to hide them, right? If you find that this use effect is very big and you never need to see it again, right? You can just use the gutter things to fold your code. Okay, so let's fold it, and down here, right, instead of all this, and what we're going to do is we are going to for add note, right? Add note is going to say let new note. We're going to do the same thing as new color. Okay, let new note equals to title, right? Sample new note, right? ID is going to be notes.length.toString, same as before. Okay, and down here I'm going to say set notes using ... notes and new note. Okay, none of this to be very surprising. This is just how you work with a list app. Okay. Right, so far so good. Any questions? Okay, so let's continue. And now we actually need this thing to add a new note, and we need it to show up on screen. Okay, so we just actually need to show up on screen. So hopefully you remember how to do this using a flat list. Okay, to do a flat list, you need a render item. So render note item. Okay, return, what does each one show? You just need I guess you need a view. All right, and inside you have a text where you just put in item.title. Okay, that's it for now. They can style it a bit later. Okay, sorry, my scrolling has gone haywire again. Okay, this is render note, is currently unused. While down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a flat list. Okay, so flat list style equals to width 100%. Remember what we did just now, right? Data equals to notes, and render item equals to render notes. Okay, let's see. Whoa, there's no render notes. Oh, I know why. This is render note. All right, so let's change this to render note. Okay, walk the cat, feed the banana. Okay, doesn't look very good. Let's give them a bit of styling, but it works for sure because if I press this plus button, it will happily create new notes for me. Yay, new notes. Okay, right. So again, super different from the the colors app, right? But I think it's just worth emphasizing, right? Because a lot of apps are this way, right? You create stuff and you lay them out on screen and you do various things, okay? So I think I just wanted to show you this thing again, right? It's in a slightly different context. Okay, so down here, let's style this thing a little bit. View style equals to, all right, and this time around, I'm just going to put all the style inside here, okay? Let's say padding 10, I want to give it slightly different. I want to give it left-right padding of 10 and top and bottom padding of 20. So that's how I do it. I set the padding, overall padding on all four sides to be 10 first, then I set top and bottom to 20. Okay. Then I give it a border, bottom color of, I don't know, like gray, and border bottom width of 1. Okay, that's a lot of stuff, right? But it makes it look like that, which I think looks not bad. Okay. And maybe the text over here, I can set the style equals to font size 16, perhaps slightly bigger. Right, okay. Okay, not bad. So I think it looks like a fairly decent notes app right now. Okay. All right, so there's something new I do want to show you next, which is a modal screen. Right, so let's hit add dot. Set up a flat list with state variable of notes. Okay, so good stuff, good stuff. Let's continue. All right, next thing, right, we want to make a modal, right? What's a modal? Let me go back to my slides. I have an example for you. Okay, so a modal is essentially one of your standard view patterns in mobile app development, right? We've seen tab bars at the bottom. We've seen navigation bars at the top. Okay, now you have, sorry, I just realized that I have a random bruise on my hand. Okay, sorry, got distracted. Okay, so when you do a compose button, you should get a pop-up. Okay, you should get a pop-up that kind of like comes up from the bottom of the screen. All right, it's not part of the stack. Okay, if it were part of the stack, right, then they could dismiss it. They could just like swipe from left to right or press the back button and dismiss it, and that's not good. Okay, so this is something that I'm not sure how many of you have thought about or seen. Okay, there are certain times when you need a stack, and there are certain times when you need a pop-up. Okay, and when you're creating new content, when your user is creating new content, that is one of the times when you want to not use a stack for that. Okay, some apps actually make this mistake, and it's kind of annoying, but it's not the worst thing in the world, right? So what some apps do is you press this button, then something will slide over from right to left, right? Then you type something in, and then there's a done button, which will save, and then it will slide back. Okay, it feels very unnatural if you are very sensitive to these kinds of things. Okay, and even if you're not, it feels slightly odd. Okay, what makes more sense is what, for example, the Mail app on iOS does. Okay, Mail as in M-A-I-L, right? Not gender. Okay, so what happens is that it pops up, it prevents you from doing anything until you either cancel or send. Okay, in our case, we want them to either cancel or save. Okay, it's not part of the stack. You don't let people dismiss it. Okay, and you've seen it in websites before as well. Okay, if you Bootstrap has it, for example. Bootstrap is this web development framework. Okay, so that's a modal. Right, it's called a modal or a pop-up. Yeah. Okay, so the way you make a modal in React navigation is you need to have the modal somewhere in the stack. Okay, and then you navigate to it. Okay, but when you do that, you must have your stack in another stack. Seems a bit weird, right? Okay, let's show you a diagram. Okay, this is the diagram. So right now you have stack, which has a note screen in it, right? If you want to have a modal, the modal needs to live separately from the notes stack and the note screen. Okay, so when you navigate to it, it will now pop up rather than slide in. Okay, if you had just put the modal next to this as part of the same stack, it will slide in, right? But if you put this in a stack, under a stack, and set this mode to modal, right, then everything inside here, when you navigate away, will pop up. Okay, so this is really just something that's a very subtle difference. Okay, I'm honestly not sure, who will notice, but I think it's just good to follow conventions, right? Having a modal rather than a slide in. So let's take a look at what it looks like over here. Press, and then you see it slides up from the bottom of the screen. Okay, click. slides up from the bottom of the screen, right? Not bad. Okay, not quite the same as the Mail app, which has a native animation, right? It kind of slides up and leaves a little gap at the top. There's a little bar you can drag down. Okay, not quite the same, right? But not bad lah. It's a reasonable facsimile. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to do a lot of weird stuff to reorganize our code. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do is, I think it would make sense to let's move Note Screen out of here. Okay, it's kind of unwieldy, right? We shouldn't do everything in app.js, even though you can. Okay, once your code reaches like more than 100 lines, it's probably not good. So again, let's go refactor. So I'm going to go over here, components. Okay, and inside here, I'm going to make a new file called notescreen.js. Okay, down here, I'm going to copy over Note Screen. Down. Okay, and I'm going to put it over here. All right, probably going to need to import some stuff. I know for sure I need to import use state and use effect. React. Okay, and I know I need to import who knows, man. Okay, I need to import touchable opacity. You know what? I'm just going to copy stuff from over here, right? There's a good chance that I don't need some of these. I'm going to copy this and font awesome as well. Okay, I don't actually need font awesome here anymore. And this thing, look what happened, right? They tried to import flat list from React Native gesture handler. Super annoying, right? Try to make sure they import it from the right place. Okay, flat list over here. Okay, you can get rid of the ones that are not using, they are not currently using, right? Text touchable opacity view and flat list are not being used, okay, because they don't exist in app.js. Okay, you can see that they're a bit faded out. So I can remove them. Right, and down here, I'm not using these two either. Okay, so we just optimize things a little bit. Okay, and over here, let's save to make sure that we have all the things that we really need. Okay, good. So over here, we have a bit of a problem. Our thing has turned blank, right? And it's because Note Screen doesn't exist. Great. So let's import Notes Screen from /components/Note Screen. Okay, so all right. So what's going on? Got an invalid value for component prop from the thing, and that's because we didn't actually tell it to export. Right, so export default. Unfortunately, the error messages here are a little bit cryptic, right? But once you get used to it, you should hopefully remember. Okay, this thing says property styles doesn't exist, which is okay. So it looks I need to go grab the styles over here. Okay, so I need to go down here, paste in the styles, and go up to the top and import. Okay, flat list doesn't exist. Sure, I will go and import flat list. Okay, finally, we're back in business. We have done nothing to improve our app, but we have kind of split it apart into two, which is its own type of improvement, right? Which really is its own type of improvement. Now it's a bit easier to understand what's going on. Okay, so I think this is worth a comment. The name for this is refactoring, right? So refactored Notes Screen into its own file. Okay, so I'm going to push this. All right, once we're done with that, we can finally get around to implementing our little task of converting this to this. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to convert this so that this is not the default, right? This is just a stack, right? So I'm going to import create stack navigator from this thing. Okay, so that's correct. And now down here, I'm going to create a new stack. So const stack equals to create stack navigator, open bracket, close bracket, and export default notes stack. And export default function notes stack is going to have a return of the usual, right? So you don't need the navigation container anymore. The navigation container is something that must live outside your entire app, okay, just one time, right? But you do need a stack.navigator, and you do need a stack.screen, right? Name equals to notes component equals to notes screen. Okay, so let's close this up. All right, so now it's a bit weird, right? You have notes and you have notes, okay? And you'll notice something strange just happened, okay? This thing has inherited the button, okay? Because this over here, when you say use effect, is asking its navigation for it, and its direct navigation is actually this particular stack. Okay, the one that it's in is actually now here, right? So to fix this, you probably want to do this. You probably want to just grab all this, right? And down here, you will replace stack.navigator with the nice styling, okay? And up here, you can actually turn off the header. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense, right? So let me just do that real quick. Right, so stack.navigator, header mode equals to none. Okay, good. It's finally managed to, oh, there's a warning, right? This is something new. Header mode equals to none is deprecated. Use header shown false in screen options instead. Okay, sure. So let's go do that. So it says screen options equals to probably a curly brace and header shown false. Okay, so sometimes you're just going to run into all these deprecations. These are just warnings, right? They won't actually affect your app. But if you don't want them to show up, I guess, well, you could suppress warnings. There is a way to do that. Or you can try and fix it, figure out what it is. It's not sure how to fix it, right? That one was fairly obvious to me, I guess, right? It said, oh, look under screen options, look, set this key, header shown to false, right? But if you're not obvious, then ChatGPT. All right, just go ask ChatGPT what is going on. All right, so great. This is so far so good. All right, if I press this, okay, that's still the new note. Okay, now I need a new screen called add screen. Okay, I need a new screen called add screen. It's going to be a little bit a bit of extra stuff. Okay, but let me see what else I can do. You know what? I think never mind, right? I think let's commit first, right? So git add dot git commit dash m continued refactor of notes screen. Git push. Okay, just to have a place to come back to later on, right? Those of you who don't know Git is also a pretty good save game system. You can actually come back to the system later on and roll your changes back to a previous version. Okay. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to have a add screen. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it blank first. Okay, so new file, add screen.js. Okay, and I'm going to import, I'm just going to import text view from React Native. And down here, I'm just going to export default function add screen. Okay, and yeah, let's just return view text. This is the add screen. Okay, so for now, this is just the add screen. Okay, and I want it such that when the button is pressed, right? When the button is pressed, add note. Okay, I no longer do this. Okay, this is now the responsibility of something else. Right. So for now, what we want to do is we just want our note screen to be responsible for sending us to the add screen. Okay, so let's say how do we do that? Okay, so this thing over here, this new note code, right? I'm just going to comment it out first. Instead, what I want it to do is I want it to navigate. All right, now how do I get the navigate? I need to use navigation dot navigate. Okay, and I'm going to set it to go to this place called add note. All right, where is add note defined? Add note is actually defined all the way back in app.js. Okay, app.js is up here. Okay, so I'm going to say stack.screen name equals to add note, component equals to add screen. Okay, By the way, I pressed tab on that and it automatically imported it for me, which is pretty awesome. All right. That's a bunch of changes. I press on this. Whoop, there you go. Okay, that's not quite what we expected. Okay, it still became something where it's pushed in. That's because there's one last thing I need to change, which is the stack navigator. I need to change this into modal mode. Okay, so if I tap on this, right, it will actually pop up. Oh, check it out. It now actually does have the iOS specific thing where it covers it slightly and you can drag it down to remove. Okay, previously, when I last recorded the demo video, right, it was like this. It covered the entire screen. Okay, but since then, the nice people at React Navigation have realized, hey, how come our thing doesn't look like the standard iOS pop-up? Okay, so in that case, they actually implemented it. All right, there is a bit of a thing over here. It says sending on animation value update with no listeners registered. Okay. Oh, hang on. It says stack navigator mode equals modal is deprecated. Do it in screen options instead. That's no problem because we have quite literally done it in screen options before. So over here, comma, screen presentation, modal. Okay, so let's try it now. Maybe they'll remove the warnings and there we go. Okay, it does remove the warnings. All right, pretty cool. So now you can actually swipe it down, right? And we just need to design our ad screen so that it can create some data and update the main screen. Okay, before we call it a day on ad screen, I guess first of all, it's fairly rubbish looking. I guess let's give it some styles. Style.container. Okay, let's bring back our container style. So that's one. Oops, style sheet doesn't exist. Let me go do that. Okay, so if I press new, whoa, style doesn't exist. Oh, sorry, styles.container. Always get this wrong. All right, so press this. Okay, slightly better. Maybe this one not so yellow. Let's make it a bit more white. FFE. All right, so FFE means just slightly red and blue, which I really can't tell that it's not yellow at all. Okay, and you know what? Let's add a dismiss button. Okay, let's add a dismiss button. How do you dismiss? Well, you're going to need a touchable opacity or a button. I'm just going to use a button. So button. Okay, so once again, import from React Native button. Button has on press as well as a title. The on press looks like this, right? So empty function first. Inside here, I'm going to type navigation dot go back. Oops, not that. Navigation. Okay. First of all, I need the navigation prop. So I need the navigation prop over here. Navigation prop. And down here, navigation prop is navigation dot go back. Open bracket, close bracket. Okay. So that's the on press, and the title equals to dismiss. All right. So if I click on this, there you go. This is the ad screen. Instead of swiping down, you can also tap on dismiss. All right. So both are working perfectly fine. Okay. Let me push this and pause for a moment because I've just added a bunch of stuff. I would like to make sure that everyone's doing okay, right? Added a modal ad screen pop-up. Okay, I'm not sure what I just committed, but hopefully that was fine. Okay, let's pause for a bit, catch our breath a little bit, all right, and check to make sure everyone is doing okay. I have not lost too many people, right? I do realize that we had like 90 people yesterday morning and now we have 30, but it's okay. I know people will be watching this online later on. Yeah, those of you who are here, feel free to watch it again online as if you like as well. Please like and subscribe. You know, not that we, we're not YouTubers or anything, but I just like to see my numbers go up. Okay, so yeah. Hopefully this is something that's pertinent to everyone, right? You might be making something where you let people add stuff to a screen, right? You might have to have this kind of pop-up behavior. Okay. Wait, pause for a bit and get some water. All right, everyone doing all right? Let's try and get through this. We'll probably end a little bit early again. I'm just going to try and finish this app, and I think we can call it a day as far as our content is going. Okay, because let me yeah, I'll preview the rest of the stuff later on, right? We're at 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we aim to cover, right? 0 to 4. API will cover a bit of it tomorrow when we talk about working with APIs. This is the Firebase app, which I'm not going to go through, I suspect, unless Amplify Studio out, then I will just demo to you how to use Firebase. Okay. This is miscellaneous stuff. Okay, it's miscellaneous topics. And I guess I will go through, I'll quickly like run through them maybe later on. Right? Also, my numbering is off. Okay, never mind. Go change it. Okay, done. Everything is fixed. Okay, and finally, design and prototyping, which I will go through tomorrow as well. Okay. Okay, in the meantime, let's go make our database-driven app. All right, so we're at this point where this is the add screen. So we haven't let people add in their stuff yet. Okay, so now let's go create a text input. Okay, let's go create a text input. A text input is where people can input text. Not surprising. Okay, so text input is something where you saw just now in the Expo's own demo app, right? So it's going to be live here, right, inside the screen. I'm going to say text input. All right, and down here, instead of saying this is the add screen, okay, I'm going to add in my text input. However, I can't do that yet. I need to create a state variable. Okay, so import use state from React. Okay, so I'm going to create a state variable first, and it's going to remember create const, right? Text, comma, set text equals to use state with an empty string. Right, remember the thing that goes into the use state is usually just the starter text, right? Starting value of your state variable. Now let's go create it. Okay, so the way we do that is we're going to use a text input. So down here, text input. Okay. All right, and the required props for it are as follows. You need a on change text as well as on submit editing, okay, as well as text. Okay, so first things first, let's use text. Text equals to text. Okay, that's one. All right, I'm just going to save this and let's just take a look. Right, open this up. Right, there you go. Unfortunately, I cannot see the text. Okay, so this text input, all right, is currently visible. That's because iOS by default kind of renders it without anything in the background, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so you know what? Sorry, it's not text equals text, it's value equals to text, my bad. Right, value equals to text. Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that it's invisible. Okay, so let's give it some styles because it's super rubbish. So style equals to styles dot text input. Okay, and the good thing about this is that you can keep this on screen, right? And you keep styling it, right? As long as you don't change any state variables, right? The preview won't reload. Okay, so down here I'm going to comma this and I'm going to style my text input a bit. Okay, so text input over here. How should I style it? I think I need to give it some kind of border is the main thing. So border with :1, border color : #CCC, comma. Okay, there we go. There's our text input. That is super useless. Oh my goodness, right? That is the worst text input in the world. Let's give it some width of, let's say, 70%. Okay, slightly better, right? And maybe let's give it a bit of padding, right? Padding is the distance between the actual text and the walls of it. So let's say padding of 5. Okay, slightly better, right? So now if I click inside here, I can start typing stuff. Okay, however, notice what happens. It's like, what's going on? Right? I try and type and then it keeps overwriting. Okay, the reason for that is that the value is tied to the state variable text. Okay, the value is tied to the state variable text. However, I try and type something in, okay, and it tries to update the state variable. It can't update the state variable. There's nothing telling the state variable to update. So the state variable is insistently sitting in the corner going, no, 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 and then it resets itself back to what it is. Okay, so it's just like a power struggle between your text input and the text, right? However, they are interlinked, okay, and they should work together. So the way they work together is by using this thing called onChangeText. Okay, onChangeText is a function that will run based on the any change in the text, right? It receives one argument called new text, and all it does is you should probably set text to the new text. Okay, it's a bit clearer once I put it like this. Let me hide my left sidebar. Okay, so onChangeText is a prop that takes in a function, and what does this function do? It notices that there's a new text and it asks the state variable to update itself. Once the state variable updates itself, then the value and this thing are in sync, right? The value and the new text are in sync, then you're good to go. So now I can type, hello, I am a banana. Okay, so no problem, right? No issues right now. Okay, so that's kind of the interesting thing about text input, right? This is called controlled text input. A controlled text input is a component where React controls what's in the value of the input, right? So React has a variable that tracks the input. In text fields in normal HTML without React are uncontrolled, okay? They are tracked by the UI. The UI will be like, oh yeah, okay, you type something in, sure, right? You want to grab something, then you know the logic behind it. You want to grab something from this, you don't want to, never mind, no, it's okay, who cares, right? I don't care, okay? React always recommends using controlled components. Let the state variable keep track of what should be shown on the text input, all right? So we need to create a use state to track it down. Okay, so let's go finish up this screen. Okay, and on this screen I have a few things. Maybe I'll just have a title that says add your to-do, all right, and then have a submit and a cancel button perhaps. Okay, and we'll make our submit work later, right? So let's get this going. Okay, so this thing, I will need a text over here. Text style equals to styles.title. Add a note. Okay, then down here maybe I'll have two buttons. Okay, so inside this button, so view style equals to styles.button row. Okay, so I'm going to put them side by side. I'm going to put these two buttons side by side, dismiss and cancel. I kind of want to make these into touchable opacities, so let's do that, right? So touchable opacity. Okay. Okay, touchable opacity on press equals to, give it a blank function first, just to keep keep everything happy. Okay, on press equals to this, and inside here we'll have a text that says submit. Down here we have a similar thing for dismiss. We just copy and paste this, and this is dismiss. Okay, but I know that dismiss, what you need to run is you need to say navigation dot go back. Okay, so that's simple enough. All right, now I have submit and dismiss, and okay, great. So now I'm more or less good to go. Let's go style our things, our title over here. Okay, so title, I kind of want to give it some margin bottom 20. I want to give it a font size of 36. Maybe a bit too big, 24. Okay, and maybe I will give it a font weight of bold. Right, good. Okay, so then my text input, I think I also want to give it some margin around it. Perhaps this thing can have a margin bottom of about 20 as well. Okay, so then my button row, right? I want them to have flex direction. This is newish, right? Flex direction row means that they will be side by side. Okay, so I haven't shown you how to do this. I've only shown you how to lay things out top to bottom, right? There might come a situation sometime in your life where you want to lay things out side by side. My goodness, what a concept. Okay, so when you want to do that, you just set the flex direction to be row. By default, it's column lah. Okay. All right, what else do I need to do? I need to actually style the two buttons, I guess. Okay, and the button text. So this one, this touchable opacity over here has a style equals to styles.button, and this text has a style equals to styles.button text. Okay, so now I need to do the same thing over here. Okay, great. So now I can finally style my buttons and button text. Button, padding 30 pixels. Oh, sorry. Padding 20, sorry. Sometimes I'm thinking in terms of CSS. Okay. And background color, let's give them, yellow, orange. Okay, and I need to give each of them some space from each other. So margin about 10. Yeah. All right, so that's because I didn't put a comma over here. Okay, not too bad, right? And then the button text can be font weight bold and color white. Okay, I haven't done all this like styling stuff for a while, but I think it's worth it just to make your stuff look good, right? Just to it's not too difficult, hopefully, right? And those of you who know CSS will find it quite straightforward. Okay, if you want your dismiss button to be red color, you remember how to do that? You can actually overwrite it over here. You can say styles.button for this, right? You put a square bracket around it so that there's an additional style that you can add in, and you can say background : red. Okay, hang on. Why didn't that work? Right, so background color : red, sorry. Okay, so maybe that's what you want. This is a destructive thing. You might lose your thing, lose your data enter. Okay, so I've styled my add node screen. I think that's pretty nice. Git add dot git commit -m styled add node screen. Okay, good. All right, we are almost done with the core functionality. Okay, so now we are faced with this slightly tricky issue. Okay, we've been sending data forward, right? We've sent data from a parent view to a child view fairly easily, right? Usually by way of props. We send the data from the parent view to a child view by its direct props. Okay, like remember RGB, block RGB. Okay, block RGB, we just said red equals to this, green equals to this, blue equals to that. Sometimes when we use navigation, right, we send it over using the navigation prop as well. Okay, the route parameters prop. Okay, when you do navigation.navigate, you manage to comma, you add on some objects, and that's how you send it over. This one is a bit tricky because you see, over here, when you press new, okay, you want your child view to send something back to you. Okay, you actually want your child view to send something back to you. Also, how come I cannot type inside? Wait, excuse me. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So now, right, let's say your child view has typed FD, right? Very meaningful, whatever that means. Okay. When you press submit, it should dismiss and the data should show up in the parent view. Correct? But how to do that? We haven't managed to send data backwards yet. Okay. So one way we set it up, okay, is that we are going to call navigation.navigate on the child screen. Okay, so over here, to get back to the previous screen, notice that dismiss, what does dismiss do? Dismiss says navigation.go back. All right. Instead, for this particular one, the on-press is currently empty. We are going to say navigation.navigate back to the previous screen. It'll do the right thing, right? It won't just like pop up another screen, right? Instead, it will dismiss itself. Okay, but here you can send the route parameters just like you did it previously. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. All right, but how will it find the route parameters? That is a bit strange, right? Okay, because you are not creating it. You're not creating it. It doesn't actually receive it upon instantiation, right? Remember previously when we dealt with route parameters, right? You are creating a brand new screen when you did the details of the block RGB screen, right? Okay, when you did the details of the block RGB screen, you created it. That's why in the function definition over here, it receives a route prop. Then you can grab it from the route prop. Now it's a bit different. Now when you are actually saying navigation.navigate, right? This guy over here, right? When you press submit, right? You say navigation.navigate. you are not creating a new node screen. You are going back to the node screen. Then how? Okay, the answer is use effect. Okay, so inside node screen, we're going to use effect to check against any change in the route.params. If there is a change, then we update our list. Okay, so that was me doing a very weird lecture where I just kind of like explored the idea of moving data back and forth. Okay, I hope that kind of makes sense. If it didn't, come back and watch it later. Okay, watch on YouTube. Okie dokie, let's get going. All right. So first thing first, I want to navigate back to my previous screen. Okay, so I'm going to say over here. All right, so I'm going to say navigate. Okay, to notes, I think. Let me just check. Is it called notes? Let's go back to our app.js. Yes, it's called notes. Okay, so let's try it. If I press submit, it does the right thing. It dismisses itself. Okay, of course, it didn't send any data back yet. Right, so now let's do that. To send data back, you just need to send in a second argument, right? And we're going to say, well, you just want to send the text, right? Say text:text. When you see text:text, you can kind of collapse it together. You just call it text. Okay, so it's sending back text. Okay, it's sending back text. All right, so now what you need to do is you need to add a new use effect call inside node screen. Okay, so today is like use effect day, a lot of use effect. Okay, very effective. Down here, you need another use effect. Okay, this is a separate use effect. Use effect, open curly brace. Okay, but down here we say route dot params dot text. Okay, so now the problem is, where got route? All right, so to get route, you need to go up here and you need to say that our node screen will receive not just navigation, but route. Okay, now this is a bit of a problem. Okay, so yes, we have received route, but the first time you open node screen, right, route.params is empty. Okay, route.params is empty. So a bit troublesome. You could be like, oh, if route.params is exists, then you call it. Otherwise, you don't. So there's a solution for this in JavaScript. You just put a question mark over here. Okay, this is called optional chaining, right? It just means that if it exists, then you look at it. If it doesn't, ignore, it's okay. Don't look at it, nothing there, don't worry. Okay, so right now, if it doesn't exist, it won't try and find .text. Okay, if it exists though, it will try and find .text. Okay, so we are almost done. Now inside here, we just need to say, okay, the moment something changes, right? You say if route.params.text. Okay, we should still check whether it exists. Okay, then you'll say console.log route.params.text. Okay, so down here, I don't need to use the question mark anymore because by the time this thing exists, right, it's a truthy value, then I can I'm back. I blame Singtel for everything. Okay, I guess we'll resume at 3:30. I think Sean has probably mentioned in the chat. Yeah, I think Singtel decided that to take a break, so we should all take a break. So we'll resume at 3:30. Okay. Okay, so I'm back. I'm alive. I'm not sure what it's gonna look like on the YouTube when it gets done, but hopefully it didn't interrupt the recording too much. I was halfway through desperately trying to type into a text input. Correct? Right. So let's resume that, I guess. Okay, so let's pull this over here and okay, good. All right, so here I was trying my best to just type stuff in here, okay, and press submit. And that's nice, okay. And then my entire home network decided to die. Fun. Okay, so anyway, let's go check our terminal, right? Where is my stuff? Okay, it could not read property text of undefined. Okay, which is not great. Not great. I was hoping that it could do it properly. Okay, could not read property text of undefined. Interesting. Okay, so let's try it one more time. Okay, but first, I think it would be good if we actually print something different out. All right, so where is my note screen? Here it is. Okay, so if I will console.log hello. Right, so I just want to make sure that it's printing something new out. Okay, sorry, I want this to be before the if statement. Okay, so I'm just trying to check to make sure that it's actually reloading with the right things. Okay, so if I go over here, it does say hi. Okay, and over here it says for some reason route.params.text is still empty, so it's not going inside here and logging hello. Okay, good. So let's try it again. So I just go here, right? Put this into testing, press submit, and let's go check our things. It says hi. Okay, that's good. It doesn't say hello. All right. Cannot read property text of undefined. Interesting. All right. So, right. You know what? I'm going to need to. Yeah. Essentially, it's saying hi and then not doing anything. Interesting. Okay. So over here, let me just check to make sure. Right. It says navigate back to notes with text. Okay. Interesting. All right, so let me just check to make sure whether we have found any particular reason for this to be happening. Right, because I did expect this to send something over. Right, I'm just gonna try something else. Text A B B B B B. Okay, so let's make sure that it sends more than that back. Okay, so console.log route.params.b. Okay, again, this needs to exist, right? Route.params.b. Okay, so let's check it real quick. Test, press submit. Okay, let's hope that it actually shows up. It says hi and it says undefined. All right, so it doesn't actually send anything back, which is quite interesting. All right, so I just want to see whether route.params will send anything back. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so route.params is also undefined. Okay, that's surprising, right? Because the route.params was working fine earlier, right? When we tried to move forward, right? So let me just go back to my browser over here, and I have my one of my GitHub. Okay, over here when we no, it's not. Yeah. Okay, so over here when we were trying to look at our block RGB. Hang on, let me go back to the colors app. Okay, and we were in app.js, I think. No, we were in components/block RGB.js. Okay, and detail screen. That's very good. Okay, so we got route. Okay, and we destructured route red, green, blue out of route.params. Okay, so that should have been okay, right? But I'm a little bit confused, right? So it looks like it's time for YJ is confused and stares at his screen and makes frowning expressions while everyone waits and watches. Okay, so give me a second. Let me just check real quick. Okay. Hang on. Let me let someone into the waiting room so that they can stare at me looking very puzzled about why this doesn't work. Okay, so navigate notes, and then it sends over text and other stuff. Okay, good. All right, did I set up my use effect wrongly? Let me just check real quick. Down here under my notes screen, okay, use effect should do some stuff. Use effect is down here. And it should be dependent on route.params.text. Okay, that seems to be okay. Okay. Let me just test a couple of things real quick. Kind of disappointing if it doesn't work. How are you going to send data backwards, right? So submit. Let me just check real quick. It's still undefined for some reason, right? The route.params is undefined when I'm doing this. I just want to check to make sure that I have navigation and route. Let me just console.log route. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I have route properly. So submit. Let's go back to check our console. Okay, it's got key. Okay, it's got name. It's got undefined params, which is quite interesting. Right? Why is my route dot params is undefined? Let's go ask one of our generative AI friends. Okay, so yeah, this is strange, right? I don't see a reason why this is behaving this way. Let's go ask one of our generative AI friends and see whether it can help us with this. Okay, so I am using React Navigation in a React Native app. The thing about this is we need to type it out like a sentence and make it understandable and put in details and stuff like that. Okay, I am sending data from one screen to another in a stack. In the second screen, I call navigation.navigate first screen, comma, data, and I expect it to show up in the first screen under its route params. But the route params are empty. Why? Okay, so I did not expect to be doing this live. Okay, but let's see whether there's anything over here to help us figure this out. Okay. Okay, so React Navigation v5xxx. Okay, so something might have changed between React Navigation versions. Okay, so that's interesting. All right. So let me just take a look at the answer. Maybe they can help us out. All right. So it says that, okay, we've done this, stack.screen, yep, component first screen, component second screen, right? We've done that. And we've navigated from the first screen to second screen, all right? And this dot props dot, yes, so we are getting it from the props, right? We are getting it from the navigation get param. That's interesting, right? If the route params are correct version of, okay, the syntax for passing parameters has changed. That's interesting. Okay, so looks like my stuff has been a little bit outdated, which is a little unfortunate, right? We will make sure that we update the documentation. But am I using React Navigation 6.xx? Let's check. Okay, so over here, one way to check is to open up the Explorer, open up your package.json, check your React Navigation. Yes, we are using 6. Okay, looks like something has changed. It's a breaking change. All right. So in your first screen, right, navigate to the second screen and pass it using state:data:this. Okay, you can access it using the state prop, which is interesting. All right. Okay, let's go try it out. This is this is interesting, but this is new. Let's go look at the official documentation. Right? Thanks, generative AI. You gave me the wrong link, but okay, never mind. React navigation, passing data, right? So let's take a look, right? Params, okay? Passing parameters to routes, okay? So we can create some routes and navigate between those routes, okay? And params go here, okay? So this is what we are used to, right? This is what we saw, okay? Passing parameters to routes, okay? So we say navigate, and then we give it, item ID and other param, okay? And when you open it up, it's got route and navigation, okay? And yeah, so over here, it finally, this is what we are used to, right? So it goes to details, and it goes to details over here. This is details, and now it will get it from the route.param. So that's fine, right? Going forward is fine, okay? Screens can also update their params, okay? Passing params to a previous screen. This looks like what we want, okay? So they can be useful to pass data to a previous screen. And hopefully this is educational for you, right? Watching me, just get, mildly confused about things that have changed, right? I hope this is vaguely educational and you're not, don't feel like you're wasting your time, okay? But I do think there's some use to just seeing how these things change and update and just searching for data, searching for information and fixing things, okay? So params aren't only used for passing data to the new screen, can be passed backwards, okay? So you can use a navigate method, which acts like go back if the screen already exists. That's why I told you. You can pass the params with navigate to pass the data back. That's what we did. Okay, so let's just check. Okay, so home screen, right? Then create post screen, right? It will, you pass it in under navigate with params. Okay, you have to, interesting. Right, so navigation.navigate, name home, this is strange, right? This is slightly different, okay? Navigate method with a bunch of things. Okay, let's try this, right? Navigation.navigate, right? So navigation.navigate inside add screen, okay? So navigation.navigate, let's, instead of doing this, right, let's just do it with an object, okay, with name colon notes screen, comma, params colon, right? And then now I put my text over here, okay? And over here, I can kind of revert all the weird changes that I made to try and get it working. Okay, so, all right, so I think that's it, correct? So this is essentially saying, hey, if this thing has changed, all right, please console log it. Okay, so let's go create a new node. Batch testing, press submit. Oh, navigate with payload. Oh, what happened? Right, note screen was not handled by any navigator, right? I think it's because my thing is called notes, right? Not note screen, okay? There's also a chance because I currently have two things called notes that might also be causing some issues. Let me fix that, all right? So this thing, call it note stack, okay? This thing is the note stack, but this thing down here is called notes. Okay, so just want to be absolutely sure about this, right? So down here, right, notes is the one that is inside your note screen. Let me check my notes real quick. Okay. So the inner stack has it as notes. Yeah. Okay. So this guy is called notes, right? And this guy was also called notes. I wonder if that was causing problems, right? So let me just switch back to the previous syntax. I suspect the generative AI might have been just hallucinating on that. Okay, let's test. I'm wondering whether it's just something that's completely off. Okay, so let's dismiss this real quick. Okay, unfortunately, our entire thing is a bit confused right now. So I'm going to have to reload it, right? Because it's in a weird state where it doesn't know what's going on, right? The last thing that was on screen. Okay, so let's start it again. Add a note, test, press submit. Okay, let's go back and check whether it actually showed up. Oh, hey, it worked. Okay, so I suspect, all right, over here, if you're trying to nesting, okay, so I think it's a bit, it's complaining a bit as well. It's saying, hey, you're trying to navigate to something called notes. Okay, you're trying to navigate to something called notes. Do you have a screen called notes? Was not handled by any navigator. right? But oh, sorry, no, that was previously. Okay, so after the bundling complete, it worked. Let's try one more time. Okay, so everything was fine. I think it was simply because I have this thing. I very unfortunately forgot to change it to node stack, right? And it was trying to navigate back to that rather than to this nodes. Well, live and learn, right? Also, generative AI completely hallucinated the answer for me, but at least it helped me along the way to finding an answer. Right? So, hello bananas. Right, press submit. What that does is it will log hello bananas. So I'm good to go. Right, I am actually good to go. Whew. All right, let's go finish this app. Okay, so how shall we finish this app? Essentially, back on node screen, what we need to do is when we receive this change, we need to go and add this code in, right? So we need to create this new node. Okay, so down here, let's uncheck this. The title is now just route.params.text. Okay, that's the new node. All right, so there you go. We refreshed, okay, and because it had currently had this route.params cached, okay, and it just added it in for us. Let's try another one. Okay, finally complete our notes app. Right, press submit, and there you go. Okay, so I hope that kind of made sense despite all the little interruptions we had along the way. First of all, my internet died, which is always fun. Second of all, I had a bit of a problem because I decided to name two of my routes the same. Do not name two of your routes the same. Okay, that's my amazing advice for the day. Git add dot git commit -m got add working. Also fixed the issue where two stacks were named the same. Okay, git push. All right, so that's pretty much it, all right, except for the last part on SQLite. Okay, so this one, I'm just going to review the slides. I think we will skip past actually implementing it. Okay, so let's go back to the slides over here. All right, so this guy over here, what were you talking about? Who knows, man? All right, generative AI hallucination, fantastic. Okay, okay, let's continue with the slides, which are down here. Okay, so SQLite, right? So what do you need to do, right? So we've done this, okay, we've created this. In order to work with a database, you need to use this method called transaction. Okay, you call this transaction method. Transaction method takes three functions. Okay. Last time, you think you're very clever. You put one function into another function. Wow, this one you must put three functions into one function. Wow, sian, man. Okay, but never mind. All right, so it has a callback, which is to execute the SQL statements. Okay, it has an error. The error is essentially, an optional function that is called when there's an error. Okay, and there's also a success function. Okay, so these two, technically, you don't need to do anything, right? Okay, so error is don't need to do anything, but if it's success, you might want to do something, right? You execute some statement, you might want to do something with the results. Okay, so now you need to define all three functions. The first callback function receives a transaction and you can execute SQL. So you do this, right? tx.execute SQL with a SQL statement, followed by some arguments, and success error, another success function to call, another error function to call. Okay, this stuff is painful to think about, but the good news is that once you've done it once, you can really just copy and paste. Okay, so after that, you receive a result set. Then you go and try your best to grab this array from it, right? You get this sort of data, right? And you just grab from there. Okay, and finally, you're going to use SQLite to perform all the necessary CRUD operations. And this we don't have update lah. We're just doing create, read, delete. Okay, so take a look over here, right? What we do is we do this db.transaction, right? This is the when you actually create a node screen, you have the create table call. Create table in SQL is to make the database available, right? Make the table available in the database. Okay, so this is how you make it. You just ID, title, and done. Actually, we don't have a done field. We just ID and title. Okay. Next, you add a refresh notes. Okay, this is a refresh notes, which will run a process of the create table call. Right. What you'll do is select everything. Okay, and it will update your notes based on that. Okay, finally, right, it will down here, the use effect, Okay, it will say, okay, the transaction takes 3 arguments, right? Upon its success, it will call refresh nodes. Okay. And finally, you're just going to remember just now the if route.parent.text, right? Now you say db.transaction, right? Execute insert into nodes based on these values. Okay, that means you are actually storing it into SQLite. Kind of painful, right? Kind of painful to type out, right? But what it does is it will work. Okay. Last thing you can do is you can add a delete button. The delete button will be very similar. It needs to call a delete delete SQL call, okay, which you can ask ChatGPT, that one it might not hallucinate it, and ask delete based on a certain condition. Okay, so here's what you can do. You can have a touchable opacity for the delete, add an icon, flex direction row, justify contents or space between means that these 2 things will be on the 2 sides. Okay, these 2 things will be on the 2 sides, they won't be in the middle. Okay, and then you'll receive a delete node function. You can take the ID of what's called. After that, you can use delete from nodes where ID equals to ID. Okay, and finally call refresh nodes to update your state. Okay, so that's SQLite, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that went on. I don't think we need to actually implement the SQLite stuff, but I think along the way, we learned some interesting things, right? In particular, you learned about, well, passing data backwards. You learned about modals. Modals are fairly useful, okay? And you learned about, I guess, naming your stuff properly and, not trusting generative AI answers for everything. Okay. All right. So I think we are done for the day, right? Except for the Kahoot. There's always a Kahoot, right? So I am going to give you a few minutes to get ready for that because I need to go and check my Kahoot to make sure my answers are correct. Okay. Let me just confirm that my answers in my Kahoot are correct. Okay. Let's do this. All right. So again, there is a prize for the Kahoot winner. So if you are so inclined, right, please hang around for this, and we will get you hooked up with a prize when you're done. Okay. So after that we're done. Right. If you want to go, you don't want to stay around for the Kahoot, that's fine as well. Okay. But I think no harm, you might win a prize. Okay. It's a fun little small prize for people who win the Kahoots. Please stick around and play my Kahoot. Okay, so anyway, this is the Kahoot game pin 1025937. Please join us in the next, I guess, minute and a half. All right, so let's go. Okay, half a minute more. Do we have anyone else who wants to take part? Ten seconds. There we go. Only 13 people, but it's okay. Let's go. Right. Thanks for joining us. I do appreciate people who are here. Okay, what is ... called in JavaScript? Is it the additional operator, the spread operator, the speechless operator, or the ... operator? It's called the spread operator. Okay, that's great. Right, it takes your something and then it spreads out the stuff inside another array or another object. Assuming array of numbers, what does ... r comma ... r do in JavaScript? Does it create a new array of two elements, which each is the original array? Create two new arrays, all right, each containing the original r's elements. Create a new array with the contents of r twice, or r, I'm a pirate, matey. I'm very sleepy. Don't choose green. Okay, thank you. All right, so it creates a new array with the contents of arr twice. Okay, so that's what ... r ... r does. Okay, well done to I don't know. If you win, please let me know who you are later. Okay, don't I don't know. Then how? Okay, what is use effect? Select all that apply. Right? Is it a hook? Is it a way to run code under certain conditions? Is it a way to run code after your component exits, or is it a special effect? Okay, that's right. It's a hook. It's a way to run code and a way to run code. Okay, a hook is all the use stuff, right? There's use effect, there's use state. There's a couple more like use memo and things like that, but not super critical for us. All right. Okay, well done. All right, let's keep going. Multi-select. In detail screen bracket curly brace route, what is going on with curly brace route? We are switching from JSX into JavaScript, hence the curly brace. We are destructuring to get the route value. We only care about the route value. This is how we get access to it. It just looks cool. I love brackets. Okay, the answers are blue and yellow, right? We're not switching from JSX to JavaScript in this case, right? That's not quite what's happening. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Well done to John. What is the alternative to doing this? All right, const red, green, blue equals to route.params. Right, you see me do this, right? What is const curly brace red, green, blue equals route.params? You can say route.params.red, route.params.green, route.params.blue when using, or you can create variables. Red equals to route.params.red, green equals to blah, blah, blah. There is no other way to do this, or this syntax is wrong. Okay, the answer are the first two. First two are perfectly valid. If you like typing extra stuff out, by all means. Okay, so this one will just keep looking into route.params and getting red, green, and blue. This one, you just assign it at the beginning, so you can just keep using. But this is, of course, the most straightforward way. You just destructure it and use it. Okay. All right. What does CRUD stand for? Is it compress, recycle, upcycle, dispose, camping, rooming, upside down, create, restore, undo, destroy, create, read, update, delete? The answer is create, read, update, delete. Okay, this time green is correct for once. Okay, four more questions. Which of these are databases? Is it MySQL, SQLite, a NoSQL, or a bit of SQL? Right, so yeah, the first three are all databases. NoSQL is technically a database, right? It's just a document-based database, right? There's no structured query language. Okay, right. Well done to Ed, who is catching up. Last three questions. Why did YJ keep encountering errors while coding? Name the bunch of stacks the same, lost internet, kept getting interrupted by cat, or stayed up to watch Apple announcement. The funny thing is, this question was in that we have these Kahoots from last year, right? And this question was there, just that I made other stupid mistakes. Okay, so this is me. I just have these stupid mistakes when I'm coding. Right? I think it's normal, hopefully. Okay, yes, the cat didn't interrupt me this time. In fact, where's the cat? Okay, anyway, it's fine, right? He did interrupt me last year. Okay, so name the bunch of stacks the same, lost internet, and stay up to watch Apple announcement, therefore very good nap after this. All right, so next. Well done to John, who's keeping the lead. Which of these are points in a component lifecycle where you can run code? Okay, when it shows up on screen, when it updates itself on screen, when its state changes, or when it gets destroyed. This is, of course, referring to use effect. Okay, use effect is very flexible. One function lets you run a lot of code in many different occurrences. Okay, so select all that apply. Okay, all of the above. All right, use effect. There are call use effect. Okay, and depending on how you call it, it will be called under certain conditions. Right, when it shows up, when its state changes, when it updates itself, or when it gets destroyed. Okay, last question. Oh, Ed is in the lead. All right, let's keep going. Last question, maybe can catch up. Okay, multi-select. What is a pure function? Is a function that's very innocent, a function that takes in no arguments, that returns no value, a function that doesn't change anything outside its scope, or a function with no side effects. Okay, yellow and green are fine. Okay, it's just functions that don't change anything outside its scope, and a function with no side effects, kind of similar meanings. Okay, you can have a pure function that takes in arguments, right, and returns values. Okay, congratulations to the winner. Let's see who it is. Okay, so John is in number 3, right? Well done. Did a good job keeping up. Ed is in number 2. Whoa, we have a new person in number 1. All right. Congratulations to I don't know. All right, well done. All right, let me just take a screenshot of this. I don't know. Please drop me. Please drop me a message if you would like the prize. If not, I guess I'll offer it to the next runner-up. I'll wait a day or so. Okay, drop me a DM. I will paste this inside. You can also just reply in the thread over there. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us for yet another day of React Native training. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Please let me know if you have any feedback or questions. Please reply in the Discord if so. And if you are free, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Good night. I'm going to take a nap.